The days of Sefiras HaOmer, we are noyeg minoge Aveilos. The Ramban at the Torah writes that the days ben Pesach la'atzeres originally are like the days ben Sukkos la'atzeres, Shmini Atzeres. And the days between the first day of Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres are Chol HaMoed. So the days of Sefiras HaOmer originally were days of joy, of simcha, of Yom Tov, but they were tragically transformed into days of mourning. Chov daled elef talmidei Rebbe Akiva meisu ben Pesach la'atzeres. And ad hayom hazeh, we are noyeg minhag Aveilos. So many people would wonder, we have been through so many tragedies in our history. And many along the way, there were so many times that we lost far more than 24,000 people, to the Crusaders and in the Inquisition in Spain and in Portugal and so many different stations along the way. And it is only the tragedy of Talmidei Rebbe Akiva that we mourn every year. So I think it is not only about the cost of human tragedy, which is something we need to feel. We need to feel tragedy. It is an entire generation of Torah teachers that perished. Rebbe Akiva was the greatest Tana of his time. And an entire generation of Talmidei Chachamim and Marbitza Torah perished. V'hoya hu olam shomim. That is the lashon of the Gemara in Yevamah Beis. V'hoya hu olam shomim. And the world became barren. There was no one to teach Torah, and the entire heritage and legacy and transmission of Torah was in danger. When an entire generation of the greatest scholars perished in one short period. V'hoya hu olam shomim. Ad shabora v'kiva etzer Rabbeinu shebedorim v'shanu lehem. Rebbe Akiva in his elderly years found the strength to start all over again, to start from Bereshis, from Aleph. And then he taught the 5 greatest Tanoim, Reb Meir, Reb Yehuda, Reb Yossi, Reb Elazar, and Reb Shimon bar Yochai. And that is why this is something we need to remember every year. Because it was not only the toll of human tragedy and suffering, it was the entire transmission of Torah was endangered. And why? Shaloi nagu kavod ze b'zeh. And whenever I speak about this sugya, I say, Loi nagu kavod ze b'zeh. Is that a lav sheyesh beikoros or misa b'dei shomayim? Why such a terrible predicament? Death, shaloi nagu kavod ze b'zeh. And I think it is because you were Talmidei Rebbe Akiva. So a story I heard many times from my great Rebbe, from the Kloisenberger Rebbe, who was a giant of our time. And he used to tell, one of my earliest recollections, he said, I was a young boy sitting in my father's lap. And the father of the Kloisenberger Rebbe was the Rudniker Rav, and he was a grandson of the Divrei Chaim, of the great Sanzer Rav. And I heard many times from my Rebbe, the Kloisenberger Rebbe, I was sitting on my father's lap and he was crying. And I asked him, Tata, was weinst? Father, why are you crying? And he said, Ich bin dich makana, zalman leib. That is how he was called as a child. I envy you. And I said, Tata, you're a big Rebbe, you have a lot of Hasidim. I'm a little boy. I envy you. Why do you envy me? And he said, because you didn't know the Divrei Chaim. You didn't see the Tzanzer Rav, the Tzanzer Zayda. And I was baffled. And I asked my father, that's another reason I should envy you. You had the privilege of learning from the Divrei Chaim, from the Tzanzer Rav. I was born after his demise. So my father said, you didn't see the Divrei Chaim. So what will they demand from you up there in the heavens? What do you expect of me? I didn't see the Tzanzer Rav. But I saw the Tzanzer Rav, my father told me. And they would ask me, what did you learn from that great tzaddik? What did you learn? You're an anicle of the sons of. So I think those 24,000 Talmidim, they were asked by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you call yourselves Talmidim of the great Rebbe Akiva? Where were you when he said, V'yahavtu l'reachu kamoichu zeh klal godel b'Torah? Where were you when he said, Perek Gimel of Masechet Avos, Chovev Odom shenivro b'tzelem, Chibi Yisera noidas lo shenivro b'tzelem Elokim? Where were you? Where were you? How could you call yourselves Talmidim of Rebbe Akiva if you learned nothing from him? V'lo inagu koved zeh b'zeh. So they weren't chayiv misa. But the mere fact that they were zeicha to be Talmidim of Rebbe Akiva. So being the Talmud of a great tzaddik is not only a privilege, it's a liability sometimes. It is a responsibility. If you were zeicha to be mishamish, a great gadol, and you were exposed to greatness, so that much more is demanded from you and expected of you. And that is why, because they were Talmidei Rebbe Akiva, that is why tragedy struck. Loi nagu kavod zeh b'zeh. And that is why we are noig minhag Aveilos up to this very day, every year, thousands of years later. Lag BaOmer is a day of simcha. And why is that? So it is popularly known that this is the day, the Yortzeit of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. But the Shulchan Aruch writes a different reason. And a Simetov Tzaddik Gimel Siv Beis, the Shulchan Aruch writes, the days of Sefiras of days are Aveilos, of mourning, up to Lag BaOmer. Mipnei she'omrim she'pasku melamus. The plague was over by Lag BaOmer. And that is why this day is no longer a day of mourning. The plague was over. But why was it over in Lag BaOmer? Nobody explains. So let me share with you my feeling. Mem Tes Yemei Omer coincide with Mem Ches Dvorim Shatoyre Nikneis Bohem. Rabbi Salanter, the founder of the Mussar movement, taught his Talmidim every day of Sefira, from day one, you need to learn Perek Vav Masechet Avos, and you need to work on one of the Kinyonei Torah. A few years ago, for a group of my Talmidim in America, they asked me to record a brief message every day of the Sefira, moving forward, Mem Ches Dvorim Shatoyre Nikneis Behem, and I did. I think it's available somewhere if you try to look for it. And before Rebbe Salanter, the Chidush Sherim says the same. And whenever I share this idea, I say, Ma yachpat lehem lechazal omar shatoyre nikneis b'mem tes devorim? Why didn't Chazal say there are mem tet kinyonei Torah, and then my drosha would be so perfect. Mem tes yemei Sefira keneged mem tes kinyonei Torah. As if dafka Chazal say mem ches devorim 48 and not 49. But if Chazal say 48, that's Ruach HaKodesh. And whatever Chazal say is ba'oimik binosam u'beruach kodsham. And if Chazal say it's 48, it's 48. Aleim ein lo'osif u'mehem ein ligroa. You remember the first Mishnah in Masechet Megillah? Lo poches v'lo yoser. Mem ches dvorim shatoyre nikneis lo poches v'lo yoser. But still the numbers are too close to just ignore. So many Gedolim throughout the ages said, Mem tes yemei Sefira coincide with Mem ches dvorim shatoyre nikneis behem. So maybe at another opportunity we'll discuss, so what do we do with the extra day? Let's put that aside. So Rabbi Salanter, Chidush Sherim, and many others say, Mem tes yemei Sefira coincide with Mem ches dvorim shatoyre nikneis behem. If you take out a siddur or a mishnayos and you start counting, 32 is oyev es habriyos. And my feeling is, But the Besoas Lanta taught his Talmidim, and the Chedusharim taught his Chasidim. Rebbe Kiva also taught his Talmidim. So, every day of Yemei Esvira, they worked on another midah. Day 32 is Oyeves Abrios. Day 33, the plague was over. Because when they worked on Oyeves Abrios, they probably were better than they were before, and they learned to love each other and respect each other, and that is why day 33, Pasku Melamus, because day 32 is Oyev Esabrios. Kach libi oimali. So this sugi v'hafti acha was very relevant in the days of Svirim. So v'hafti acha kamoichu zeh klal godel b'toira, and as we learn today, it is not only about your sentiments, it is about the way you act, and you need to go out of your way to be caring and compassionate and try to be helpful in any way. And that is the mitzvah hafti acha kamoichu. Ani Hashem, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts to us midah keneged midah, and we have compassion for others. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has compassion and love for us, and we're zoicha to midas harachamim. This has been a painful year and a half, and we didn't have many opportunities to talk, but we're still in the middle of this war. And yesterday, Shabbos afternoon, I gave a shiur. And after the shiur, a few young people came to me and they told me, tomorrow morning we're going into Gaza. I should give them a brocha. They should all come safely home. So we still need to daven, because obviously there's a lot going on. Shakadosh Baruch Hu yarachem aleinu. So when we care for each other, kol hamaracham al habrios, marachamim olav ben hashamayim, the Gemara says in Shabbos Kuf Nam Gimel. So when we are makayim the mitzvah hafti acha kamoichu, that is ma'orer ahavas Hashem and rachamei shamayim. We should only be mavaseh psoides toivis in Yeshuas and Achomes, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should send us Moshiach Tzidkenu b'mehero v'yomeinu amen.